This is Shelby,
And this is Jess.
and welcome back to the League of Extraordinary Readers. This week we have the lovely Cleyvis Natera with us to talk about the Grand Paloma Resort and some other bookish things, and we are super excited to have her. So thank you for coming on, Cleyvis.
It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Yes. Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about the Grand Paloma Resort and just Clevis's journey as an author. And we just wanted to intro, I guess you want to jump into probably the talk about the mass paperback reel back for that.
Yeah.
We can jump into that, get your thoughts about that and what you think about it. I started noticing, I was just talking to Shelby about this before you hopped on, that I just started noticing like specific books I was trying to order through the bookstore. What Storm, What Thunder, and The Farming of Bones was not available. It wasn't even back ordered. It was just out of print. And I was stunned because I'm like, these are books that came out literally, well, with What Storm, What Thunder by Marianne Chauncey, that came out 3 years ago. So it was just so stunned. I was so stunned. So I'm just wondering your thoughts about it, and what that means for the publishing industry overall, what you think that means.
Yeah, so I mean, I think we're talking about two different things, right? Like the
Mm-hmm.
mass produced paperbacks are
Like
a
little
very
tiny.
specific kind of book
Okay.
that usually it's like a smaller size, and they're the ones that sometimes you find at grocery stores, or you might find them at the supermarket. Um, Paperbacks are a different thing because usually a paperback is just, the book first comes out in hardback, and then usually a year later comes out in paperback. And those paperbacks, depending on how they do, sometimes the publisher decides not to have a paperback if the hardcover doesn't do very well. We've seen that, especially in the last decade. Um, and so, what I would say first is that the fact that they are saying that they're not gonna, and I haven't seen the news, Shelby, it's like breaking news. I'm learning it here.
Yeah. It was I've seen it like all over the place. Even I don't remember what publisher it was, but on their Instagram page they were talking to Stephen King, because I didn't realize that Stephen King, when he sold Carrie, they did a mass market paperback, and that is how he got his big money.
Yes.
And I didn't realize that.
Mm.
So in my mind, I personally don't like mass paperbacks because they're tiny. I wear glasses because I need them.
Mm.
And the
Hmm.
mass paperbacks
Yeah.
small, and a girl can't see. So in my mind, I was like, good riddance, girl. I
Yeah.
didn't necessarily realize that there was a rhyme or reason to mass market paperbacks, that they were intentionally smaller and cheaper for a
Yeah, I
reason.
mean, it just makes it really accessible to a
Right.
readership.
That makes
And like
sense.
you're
Yeah.
saying, it's like going from, you think about a normal book, they might publish a first run of 10,000 books or 20,000 books. And the mass paperback, I mean, when you're talking about Stephen King, at this point, they're probably publishing a million mass paperbacks because
Yes.
they know that his book
Mm-hmm.
is just going to fly off. And
Yeah.
so I do think that there's a big impact in the market anytime that you take books away, like make them less accessible. It's just,
Mm-hmm.
because I believe that a mass paperback, like I remember when I was in high school, I was addicted to reading romance novels. Okay. Like I was on the train, like I couldn't even show, because it was like the slutty ones, where like
Yes.
the chest is
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
out and like some man is
Yeah.
grabbing you by the waist. So sometimes I would be embarrassed, okay, to be holding it, but the books were so good. I didn't care. And I was poor. So like back in the day, I was buying a lot of those books and they were like $5 or like $7. And so, I just think
Mm-hmm.
about that, like cutting that off is heartbreaking. So I hope that maybe it isn't across the board all the publishers are making this decision,
Right.
but that it might really be like a decision that's being made by one publisher.
Yeah, I
Mm.
was trying to figure out in my mind like what's going to be the replacement from an
Okay.
accessibility aspect, right? Like,
Yeah.
is this going to be the reason we get like a better version of the Libby app, or like library services being online, or like something like that? Like, what is this going to evolve to? Because I never considered the accessibility aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
from my perspective, I was just like, well, it don't matter to me because they were small. Like, I never buy them. The only mass market paper books I have are like, I've been trying to find Beverly Jenkins covers, like the original
They're
covers, and
all
those are
small.
usually mass market paperback. I
Yeah.
don't read them. I just want them for my collection because the covers are beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, but other than that, I was like, why is everybody crying? Like, we're all yelling. Why are we yelling?
Yeah.
It's we'll be okay, but I wonder what the like, is this gonna be another shift towards doing things digitally?
Yeah,
You
but
know?
we learned when
Yeah.
Kindle came. We learned when, like, I know I was one of those writers who was so upset because I didn't have even a literary agent. And so when these, devices came out, I was like, oh, the death of, hardcover or like real books. And what we found was quite the opposite. Once
Yeah.
Instagram and social media kicked off, like, people want to show off their books. And
Yeah.
so, Shelby, you started talking about Miriam Chansey, who is one of my favorite writers. And I love that book, What Storm, What Thunder. I mean, it is astonishingly good.
So
And so
good.
I just want to remind people that, like, the consumer still has power when it comes to paperbacks, not the mass
Mm-hmm.
produced ones, but the regular. I mean, Shelby, if
Mm-hmm.
you were ordering the book and it wasn't available, like, make an order through that independent
Right.
bookstore. Because I think that when the publisher sees that there's still a demand, they'll do another run. Sometimes they don't do other runs because once your print runs out, the publisher has to make a decision. Are they going to print it again, or are they not going to print it? And if you're
Yeah.
selling a lot, they will print ahead of the run running out because they know there's a demand. And so I just like to remind readers of that if you see that the book isn't available in your bookstore, instead of like jumping on an app to see if they can send it to you quicker, like, ask that bookstore to like order it
Yeah.
for you, because that's also going directly to the publisher, and now they know there's more demand for it.
That's
Yes. When I went to order it, they said they couldn't even order it through the publisher. It was
Hmm.
so random. So I thought there was like a connection between the both mass market and just regular paperbacks. Is like, is there a connection with that news and this new, like, with this happening? Because it happened also with the farming of bones too. Like, they were like, yeah, we can't even get it through directly through the publisher. It's out of print all the way. So they had to go through some other system, and I ordered it still, and I ordered another Roxane Gay book as well. That came faster, but I can't even get What Storm, What Thunder, because I absolutely love the book. I think it's an amazing book by Marion Chauncey. I think it's just a beautiful story about the Haitian earthquake and everything, and how she describes is just so beautiful. So I was trying to get it for a friend because she wants to read more Haitian authors, and she's Haitian herself. And so I was kind of disappointed. I was like, I wonder if there's like a connection there. Like, what is happening here? Yeah.
Yeah, I
that
wonder.
also
I
makes
don't
me
know. I mean, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Shelby.
I'm sorry. That makes me wonder, are they doing like a bunch of reprints? Like, are they doing like a new
Mm,
cover or something like that? Because I
yeah.
ran into a similar issue ordering like one of Toni Morrison's books, like right when they were kind of like
Yeah.
switching
Yeah.
over to all the new covers that are coming out. And I
Mm-hmm.
know I saw someone else online, like they ordered Beloved and got the like this version of it instead of the new one.
Mm-hmm.
So curious, maybe.
Maybe not with Miriam Chauncey's book, just because, and not to say that her book isn't good, because I love it, and Cleyvis also said she loves the book as well, but it's not
Mhm.
talked about enough personally.
Right.
Like, so it's not necessarily a book like that people are running to. Like, her first book, I
Mm,
forgot the first book. I have it on my shelf and I'm trying to look for it over here. But her one of her first books, I think, just was reprinted, but that was, I don't think What Storm, What Thunder is would be coming out with a new cover just yet. Maybe The Farming of Bones. Maybe The Farming of Bones might be one that, because it's a popular book in a sense. But I don't know. That's I'll see. I'm gonna try again with the bookstore. See if it's come back or whatever the case may be.
I'll keep an eye out
Yeah.
too. If I find a copy while I'm out, I'll um
Yeah.
I'll grab it for you.
Yeah, let me know, please. Cause I was like, what is happening?
Yeah, that's frightening though. Because the farming of
Yeah.
bones, I mean, that was one of my biggest influences for the Grand Paloma Resort. Like, I
Yes.
just,
Yes.
she is for me like one of our giants. And she
Yes.
definitely does have a lot of respect, and has won a lot of awards. But I think Adush Dantikar is brilliant. And that book, it just has to stay in print because people have to
Yes.
teach it, people have to read it. It's such an important book.
You are the
Yeah.
reason we read it.
Yep.
After I left,
Yeah.
when I saw you at Watching Bookseller, like Jess and we were just saying this to someone else. Like we literally are best friends, although we live on opposite side of the country. So like we don't just like only talk to each other on the podcast. Like we're literally talking to each other all day, every day about everything. So when I was
Mm-hmm.
at the event, like I'm sending her clips of you, and then I'm like, okay, she's talking about this book. We need to read this, and she mentioned this, and we have to whatever. So we read it. We wanted to read it before we read the Grand Paloma
Yeah.
Resort, so that we would be prepared. And I'm so glad that we did.
Yes.
That makes
Yes.
me so
So
happy.
glad that we did.
Yes.
Like literally, Jess will go to a book event out in California and she'll call me after, or she'll send me a voice note after, like, this is what the author said, this is what I thought, like this is what they talked about for the book, or whatever the
Mm-hmm.
case may be, especially if it's an author that is like only gonna be on the West Coast or only gonna be on the East Coast. Like we are
Mm-hmm.
always
Yeah.
like, okay, they said these books, we need to get them. How quickly can we read them? When do we have time? So we
Yes.
read The Farming of Bones because of you, and we absolutely loved it.
Yes. And I want to say as well, Edwidge Daintycat is one of my favorite authors. I read everything inside years back. And so when she was like, we got to read The Farming Bones, I was like, yes, we must. Because I haven't read, I like, you get consumed with other books and stuff, but I was like, I need to read another one of her books. And I'm so excited because, like, you said this was a huge inspiration, but I wanted to know what else was a huge inspiration around the Grand Paloma Resort overall.
Yes. Well, thank you for asking that, Jess. I think the first point of inspiration for me in writing the Grand Paloma Resort was my country of birth. My home country. I grew up in the Dominican Republic, and when I started writing the Grand Paloma Resort, it was during the pandemic when we were shut down, and we couldn't take off. The airports were grounded. Every single border had been shut down because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And I just remember thinking, like, what if I never see my country again? Like, what if I never go there? And so I started thinking a lot about this book. I had been thinking about resorts, and I had been thinking about the employees at the resorts, because every time I traveled to the Dominican Republic, more often than not, I stay in a hotel for part of the time. My mom still has a house, and I, of course, spend a lot of time in her house. But I'm someone that I love hotels, I love resorts, even though they're very problematic. And so, anytime that I travel, I would like really be paying a lot of attention to the workers. And very often I would get into conversations with workers, and I was always really fascinated by the idea that when you think about holiday movies, holiday films, a lot of the what you consider to be a beach read in our market, they're always centering the people traveling more often than not. Even when books are written by Caribbean writers, very often they center the other. And I really was thinking about writing a book that was about the employees, and where like the protagonist and the plot all revolved around the people who worked there. And so I would say that was the main inspiration.
Mm, I like that. And just to touch on, like you said, resorts are problematic. For me, I understand how problematic they can be because my family is from Jamaica. So a lot of the resorts own the beach, all the beaches. They're not locals can't even get to the beaches basically, right? You have to either pay or there's no public beaches even though they're right there. So I wanted to know, how do you like envision the Grand Paloma Resort and the overarching topics of like classism, racism, tourism? How do you see that in the broader conversation of the current state of the Caribbean regarding tourism and local labor?
Well, I mean, to me, one of the things that I was hoping to do with this book was just to illuminate how really relentless this industry is, and how for people who are working, and I'm talking about the people, not the expats that are coming to run the hotels, not like upper class locals who usually have a path into like upper mobility already. I'm talking about the people who, like my family, that are working class and don't have a lot of access to upper mobility. There's a version of tourism where truly the dollars that are coming in, the euros that are coming in, the Canadian money that's coming in, would be an enabler of social mobility. But across the Caribbean, you see that that's not the case. That the amount of money. I mean, I read a stat recently that was like, for the Dominican Republic had the biggest tourism year in history last year, and yet the standard of living is less than it's been. Like people are earning less than they've been earning, and this was in a local newspaper from the Dominican Republic that I read. And so I just think about that. I think about the fact that what we have really is a perfect exemplar. When all of us think about capitalism and like what's wrong with capitalism, this is what's wrong with capitalism. That you have these hotels, they are taking advantage of the natural beauty and resources of our islands. More often than not, they cut off access, because it isn't just in Jamaica. I mean, there's been such a push across so many islands because, the government, more often than not, is in cahoots. They want to attract these big companies to build on their island. They, sell it to locals as like more work, more opportunities. But what ends up happening is that, local people don't have access to the natural resources, to the beautiful beaches, to some of these incredible lush forests that we have. And they also don't have access to social mobility, because the work that they're doing is paid at such a rate that it's never really going to ease the way into middle management or upward management. And so I really do see it as a critical issue for us to think about. And for those of us who are, in the diaspora, I mean, I am a US citizen. I've lived here, for over 30 years. And so I think about like, what is our responsibility when we go back home? Like, who are we? How are we trying to impact the dynamics and the power that we yield because we're bringing dollars, and that goes for all tourists, whether you're local or not. But I think those of us who are from the islands have this kind of awareness that something isn't fair and something isn't right about the fact that there's like billions of dollars that are being made, and they somehow never quite reach the people who should have access to that wealth, right? The people that are from the islands.
I think that's interesting that you say it like that, because like when the Hurricane Melissa came through Jamaica last year, like October, there was a huge conversation of like, we need to pull away from tourism as our big budget, as our big makers, because sandals and these big, resorts are taking all this money, and they barely want to keep anybody there during this mass destruction. They don't want to take in anybody that it lost their home, or even the workers are there still that have lost all their homes and they're working there and they're acting like it's nothing. Like there's that conversation, and a lot of people, and I also brought up A Small Place by Jamaica Kincaid about how to be, good tourists overall. Like how does that work, and so I'm happy that you're bringing up this conversation within the Grand Paloma Resort, because it is needed. We needed more books that showcase how um capitalism is taking over the islands, and people are not even thinking about it. Even when it comes to also climate change, we're like the biggest hit spot, and we're the ones that are not putting out as much emissions and toxic waste into the ocean, or just climate change in general. Like it is not our problem, and we're getting hit the most with hurricanes.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So to piggyback off of that, I think the Grand Paloma Resort does a phenomenal job at balancing a deeper conversation, a bunch of deeper conversations, right? Like not just about tourism, but also about the risk and the sacrifice that the native people have to take in order to like fit in with Western themes, and they don't benefit from it at all. But at the same time, it is a phenomenal mystery. Like, I was on the edge of
Mm-hmm.
my seat the entire time I was reading it. Like, every time I thought I knew where something was going, or what a character was going to do or whatever, something else happened that I was like, okay, I'm just going to stop guessing now and I'm just going to go along for the ride. So I think
Yep.
that's awesome, because I think when people hear that this book is having deeper conversations, I think there's like a demographic of people that are just like, I don't know if I want to, like, I want the escapism. This does both very well. So do you plan to stay in the mystery thriller genre?
Sure, to be honest with you. I mean, thank you so much for the compliment, Shelby, because that
You're
means a
welcome.
lot. I know you are an extraordinary reader, and so it means a lot to get the compliment that you enjoyed it and that it was surprising. Part of what I'm interested in doing as a writer is really having the books very much like it in its structure and in the way that it moves be intimately interlinked with what it is about. So when I think about like the context of my book, being about 7 days, these two sisters who are making terrible choices, they're spiraling, and how
Mm-hmm.
that really, like, kind of that relentlessness of like working in a kind of environment where like you're never able to take a break, like you have to be on all the time. And I wanted that reading experience to be mirrored by a reader who would be unable to really put the book down, because to me, when I think about labor and I think about the book is really a labor book, then I think about the reader and their job. Your job is to read. So I feel like if I can keep you from putting the book down, then you also are feeling that relentlessness. Although I hope it's a lot more pleasurable than all the crises these two protagonists are going through. So I am writing the next book that I'm writing, and I'm like in the middle of it right now. And it is a book that is also about a resort in the Caribbean. There's a lot of suspense in it, but I don't think that it falls as neatly into a thriller genre as this one. And I think that it's a book that's really more concerned with family and a lot of like kind of complexities of work in from a different vantage point. But I have to tell you, I had so much fun writing the Grand Paloma Resort. I mean, these two sisters are like terrible people. They're making awful decisions. And I just had
Yes.
fun. I
Yes.
was like, oh my goodness. Like, there were times when I was shocked that I was making up the story, because I was like, no, Laura, no, don't do that. But I
Oh, there
had to
were
be
plenty
true.
of times I
Yeah.
text Jess and I was like, I hate Laura. Like, I hate her.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's okay. That's okay. I don't like her. I'm like, this baby has not made one good decision, but it's
Not
also
one.
so realistic, right? It shows that the things you'll do for success, right? Or what you deem as success, what you deem as the right thing to do, and how your morals start to play a part. But everybody is willing to do something a little bit bad if they think it's going to get them to the good, right? But how far are you going to go? Like, it you do a very good job at that. But I was like, I hate that girl. I'm
Mm-hmm.
tired of talking to her.
She's
I don't want to hear
annoying.
nothing else she had to say. I was sick of her. But it's a very good book. And I also like that you can tell that the farming of bones was important to you, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Like, with Vita's character, the things that she had, the decisions that she had to make, like, I was like, oh yes, I can see that. I'm glad we read it. Like, I wouldn't have been able to pick that up or like make the connection without having read The Farming of Bones. So you totally can tell.
Mm-hmm.
I also was very triggered by the corporate conversation in it. Like, I'm so glad I don't work in corporate America anymore. Um, I used to work in banking, for everybody listening, watching, that doesn't know. And it is very much like, I remember when my grandfather passed away. And my grandfather passed away. The next day I came to work and we happened to get audited. So it was like perfect that I came to work so that we could get the score that we needed. But I was like, okay, I'm going to need the rest of whatever my bereavement time is. And my district manager called me and was like, what do you need the time for? Are you traveling? And I was like,
Hmm.
does it matter if I'm traveling or not? Like, mentally, I'm not okay. Like, this is a man that helped raise me. I saw my grandfather every day of my life, well into almost 30 years old, right? So it was just I never understood that working in corporate America. I was always the oddball out because I wasn't like Laura, right? Like I wasn't this job wasn't the end all be all for me. It wasn't my personality.
Yeah.
It was just a
Yeah.
paycheck. And everybody around me was so confused because they were making it their personality. Like this was the only way. And I'm like, no. My mother has always told me I could be anything I put my mind to. If that's selling rocks on the side of the road or being the president
Mhm.
of the bank, either way I can go. So it was like, it was hard for me. I think that's why I didn't like her so much, because it was hard for me to empathize,
Yeah.
because I felt like you can make the right decisions and you can be kind. You don't have to be who they want you to be. You don't have to do that. So me and Laura got beef, even though she is a fictional character.
That conversation was it's just so, her personality was just so annoying that she was just always yearning for some sort of acceptance, like you said, like with the job was just like so annoying. Corporate America is just yeah, the politics around it were so annoying and just hard to watch and hard to read overall. So you made both those characters really good, because if we don't like a character, you're getting emotions out of us, like,
Right.
yeah, you're like, you're really tugging on our heartstrings, like, oh my gosh, I hate this person. It's either you love them or you don't like them, type of thing.
No, I mean, I definitely wanted Laura to be a very compelling and very complicated character, because I think there's something to me too about her callousness. You know, very early on, we realized that she really does have this resentment she feels for her little sister Elena, while she loves and adores her and wants to enable her to have a better life. And so there's that too, the stake of her wanting to give her daughter slash sister, right? Like she thinks of her sister as a daughter, and you know, she feels very alone too, which I think is one of the things that these corporations rely on. Like they really do rely on us becoming isolated from the things that actually matter in our lives, our families, our hobbies, our passions. And the more that we become defined entirely by the work, the more we're gonna give the work. And so, you know, I definitely wanted that to be like a big part of her personality. And I also felt like a lot of tenderness for Laura, even though she's a wretched human being. I really wanted her. I felt tenderness for her because the fact is that she also has managed to be in a position of power, and she feels betrayed by her town. Like she's not only lonely when it comes to the dynamic with her sister and work, because she's also feels like very alone in the workplace. She feels alone in her community too, because there are times when like she has felt that they turned their back on her and her sister, that they weren't there to support her. And some of those things are not true. Some of those things just are flaws in her own understanding of the world. But that also motivates. So I thought, how good would it be to show? Because I feel like anytime that I see these films or movies where like you see working class and poor people making the right moral choice, and I'm always like pushing against it because I don't think that's true. I think we live in a very cruel world. More and more cruelty is what is rewarded in our society, right?
Yes.
And so I think that, you know, we can't pretend that like that's not true. Like that's kind of an operating ideal in like our modern societies. Like to be cruel is something that people reward. And so I also wanted to show how if you already feel a grudge against certain people and you get a little bit of power, it just doesn't take that much to push it. Even if your own mind, you can justify it. Hey, if I don't do my hair, I'm not going to be respected. It is absolutely unacceptable to show up in some of these business settings with kinky hair. Like we all know this. Like any of us that wear braids, any of us that have hair that doesn't grow out of our skull straight, you know, has been conditioned in some of these spaces, especially in the Caribbean, to have this hyper awareness that unless you look white, you don't look acceptable. And so, you know, even when she can justify some of these things, we still know that she's getting quite a bit of pleasure at like flexing her power. And I think that's an interesting thing to put in a book and an interesting thing to have people think about, because all of us can be critical of Laura. And I hope that to some extent, being that critical helps us in the real world, when we live the fictional world, to look around and be like, am I complicit in some of these systems? When do I see complicity within my own family, within my own community, when it comes to these kind of behaviors? Because I think they exist.
Absolutely. I appreciate that you handle your characters with care, right? I find in a lot of books that I've come across, not present day, but books that just like haven't aged well. I feel like authors were trying to have these conversations about society and community, but they weren't handling their characters with care. So you could, it feels more like hate and judgment than it does like, oh, I want you to think about this, you know? And I think it's very clear that you're like giving us things to think about um in a way that is fun. Also, my next question, this book is very well written. Like I can tell that you're a reader. I can tell that you care about your craft. But I also know, if I remember correctly, you're a professor, your
Yeah.
mom, you run marathons. I remember you did the turkey trot. You're doing all of these things. Like, how do you make time and space to write so well?
Oh my goodness, thank you. You're making me feel so good. I actually was just running today and I'm so out of shape. I have a race coming up. I'm doing the
Oh,
cherry blossom
oh,
a 10K, so it's 8 miles, and that one is coming up in April. So I've been so lazy because it's so cold outside. I don't want to
oh, yes.
move.
Oh yeah.
And
You're
let
not
me
wrong.
tell you, I got on this treadmill today and my body was like, no, we're not ready. We're not ready. I mean, people do ask me that a lot about like, how do I balance all of it? Because I have two young children, I have an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old. I have a husband. We have really big families we love and we spend time with. I teach both at Montclair State University. And I teach this semester, I'm teaching at the new school, but I also have a regular teaching job at Barnard. And so, yeah, it's a lot. I mean, the way that I think about it, maybe it is because, like you, Shelby, I spent the better part of 2 decades working at an insurance company. And when I used to work at that job, I'll be honest with you, even when I gave birth, after I came back from like my medical leave, I remember like the pace of work was just becoming more and more intense. And, I had to travel. Our home office was in Chicago, and I would like have to travel every other week. Sometimes I would travel every week with like tiny babies while I was nursing. And it was really, really tough. But I'll tell you something. When I was doing that kind of relentless pace of work, I really did learn a lot of discipline. I learned, to get up early in the morning, because if I wanted to write, I had made that decision that I was going to keep a full-time corporate job from the time I was in graduate school. And the only way really to fit in like the writing is to get up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. And I would work before, the kids woke up, before it was time to get them ready. And then I would work my full day and, take care of the family, do the dinner. My husband is great, so we definitely trade off. And then, in the evenings, I would go back to working on the writing. And there have been times in my life, though. I remember when I quit my corporate job, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna take retreats, or I'm gonna, travel to conferences. This is before I was published. And oh my goodness, my family was very critical. My family was like, who are they taking care of these babies? What are you doing? You're traveling a lot. And I found that it was so interesting that like when I was doing it for work and I was doing it right for a paycheck, nobody was critical. Nobody was
Yeah.
like, what's happening to your babies? And they
Yeah.
knew, because I've always had care for my children. But it was just really fascinating to me seeing how, like, even within our own communities, our own families, people are very resistant to like anything we're doing for ourselves if it's perceived to be selfish. And so I don't know, like there's a part of me that feels really committed to like my craft. Like I'm very committed to teaching, because I think being a teacher of fiction and I also teach Latino studies. So it's like, always putting kind of a critical lens on culture, on language. I love books. I love writers. So I'm always, every chance I get, like you, Shelby, like you, Jess, I'm out there like going to listen to writers. You know, they're not always great at the talking part, but you know, like I just love being around them, even when they're like nerds and they don't know how to talk about it. I still love them because you learn something, even if someone is, you know, not fantastic. And I find more and more that writers are more and more compelling. They're like finding a way to be unique and do fun things around their books. So yeah, so I'm super committed to that part of it. And you know, again, it comes with like discipline, and it comes with a lot of sacrifice. Like for me, yes, if I'm gonna run, that means that, like, you know, today I woke up at 5:30 in the morning. I was working on this new book. The kids are up at 6:30. Then I gotta get them ready. They leave. You know, I'm working. I'm moderating a talk this evening, so I had to like prepare for that for a couple of hours. And then I was like, okay, I finished at 11 o'clock, and I was like, be very focused. You know, a friend of mine is sending me texts because there's like some hot tea happening around with some writers we know. And I was like, oh, I really want to call her. But if I'm going to get my run in so I can be ready in April, I need to like set up this 1 hour before our podcast recording to like get, you know, at least 3 miles in. So, you know, I think for me, like some of it is honestly being very aware. I also think like there was a time in my life where I was giving a corporation 60, 70 hours a week. And so what I think is like, why wouldn't I be able to give this life that I love, that is like my dream has come true? Why can't I do that? And so I do end up working a lot, and, you know, I volunteer a lot. I mentor people for free. And so like all of the things that I'm trying to do require time. And so it's a balancing act. And sometimes it means that I don't get to, you know, be on the phone with my friends talking shit about people we know. Like it's just like that's gonna not be on the agenda this week. But next week when I'm better, I'll be like, let's catch up about what happened last week.
I love that. I love being
That's
able
so
to see
real.
authors as, you know, people, right? Like I've been chatting with Nikisha Ellis Williams, the author.
Ooh, I can't wait to read her book.
It's so good. You're gonna love
Seven
it.
Daughters of the Pre.
You are going.
Cannot wait. I have it. I
love
can't
it.
wait to dig into it.
So good. But she and I have been chatting about Disha Filyal's new book that's coming out in September.
Oh,
And
Disha's new book.
Good. It's so
You know, the whole
good.
world is like, let's
so
go.
good.
Let's go. We're gonna
It's so good.
Disha and lift her up.
So
Listen,
good.
Jess and I got advanced copies. My mom is reading it right now because my mom, like, I read all the time. I'm always reading. So we're in the living room, we're watching TV. She's like kind of listening to an audiobook and I'm reading. And she looks over at me and she was like, baby, close your mouth. Like your mouth has been open for like the last 20 minutes. Like close your mouth. And I'm like, mommy, I don't even know.
It's
Disha put her feet in that book. And it is so good.
If you get a copy of that book, that better be the first book you ever read.
Yes,
listen, put down everything.
Email. What's the publishing company for that? That's Mariner. Mariner. If you email Mariner, they'll send you a copy. Cleyvis, I'm sure they will. Bully them.
I'm gonna get on it. I'm gonna get on it. I have to tell you, like I have been so eager for this book. And I think Disha is just like brilliant, and I just love who she is. To begin with, just as a human, as a person, she's so generous. But, you know, oh my goodness, The Secret Lives of Church Ladies is brilliant. I teach so many of those stories to my students. They're just wonderful. Yeah. And so I cannot wait for this novel. I cannot wait.
It's everything and more. Yeah. It's funny. It's thought-provoking. It's like sexy in places. It's real. Yeah. Like it's so, like it felt like, and I felt similarly with your book. Like I was watching reality TV, but like in the best way. Like not in a way where it's like, oh, reality TV is yucky and I don't like how it portrays people of color. Like not in that sense, but it's like just the thrill of like being in people's business. Like it, yes.
Have you guys watched Greenleaf?
No.
I haven't seen that.
Okay. Greenleaf was on OWN. It is cheesy in a way. You know me and my shows. So,
Cleyvis,
but
Jessica is the TV person. She watches all kind of strange things, and when she wants to bother me, like if she was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna annoy Shelby today," she'll tell me the strangest thing that she saw on television just to see my reaction, and I fall for it every time.
it's a great time. It's a great time. Anyway, Greenleaf is like basically pretty much what Disha's book is about. It's churchy. It's just church life, but with a lot of drama. The main character is Lynn Whitfield, and what's his name from he played not the frog, the evil guy in The Princess and the
I
Frog.
know who you're talking about. I can't remember his
His
name, but I can see
voice.
him. He sings.
Yes, him and Lynn Whitfield. Imagine them together, just evil characters in this church. They're literally pastors of a mega church, then they have kids, and it goes down the line from that. It is literally kind of like Greenleaf in a sense. But
Oh,
honestly, I feel like it's just much better. Disha's book is just
Yeah.
it's just so
yeah,
unique.
no,
I've never read anything like it, especially when it
nothing.
comes to churchiness of like, oh, it's just to give you like a little synopsis. It's about a first lady who does a pageant. And it's a first ladies pageant, and it leads with a bang, and then it goes through the whole entire how they got to this whole entire scene at the top of the book.
Mm.
So pretty much it's following her, and she's realizing things, and there's a secret that's uncovered, and then just goes downhill from there.
The best
It's
way
crazy.
I've been describing it to people is if Miss Congeniality, like that movie series,
Yeah.
and the song Church Girl by Beyonce had a baby,
Mm-hmm.
it would be Disha
Mm-hmm.
Y'all's book. That just is math that makes sense in my head.
I
And then
love that. I
sprinkle
love
then
that.
sprinkle Greenleaf on top of that with the
Right. Like
drop.
sprinkle
Yeah.
like the Housewives shows,
Yeah.
like sprinkle that
All
on top
that.
of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe the Braxton family values, like sprinkle that in there.
Yeah, it definitely gives Real Housewives of Potomac sprinkled on top with a little bit of Atlanta. Mostly Potomac because it has that ritzy feel of like
That's
I'm living in
this
DC
is just
type of vibe. Yeah.
like math that works. I don't know
Yeah.
why it works.
Love that. I love that. I mean, I just feel like the whole world will rally around Disha because she's one of our most brilliant living writers. And the fact that I'm so glad to hear you both are like so excited about the book and feel like it's really like
I
working
will
up to what
be
we all expect.
We're
standing
gonna
outside with signs
literally
when this book comes out. Like y'all,
we are
everybody needs it.
screaming from the rooftops from now until September and
Yes.
beyond, honestly. People are like, why are you talking about this book now? Because it's good. It's good.
Right.
Order
Someone
pre-order
asked
the
me
book.
for recommendations last night, and the 3 books that I said the Grand Paloma Resort, the Seven Daughters of Dupree, or go pre-order Disha's book. You're gonna have to wait till September, but those are the 3
Mm-hmm.
that I have for you right now. Everything
Yeah.
else you're gonna have to check my YouTube channel.
I
Yeah,
love that.
literally.
At the top of my
Literally.
head are those 3. And
Well,
maybe a
thank
Quakey
you.
and Mez's
I
book.
do appreciate you naming my book among
You're welcome.
those
It's so
wonderful
good.
writers.
It's
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 such
so
a
good.
so
I
good.
had
privilege.
such a good time. Like it was
Yeah.
I've been in the mood for something fun and something like engaging to read because I usually read a lot of historical fiction, and
Mm,
historical fiction can be dark and moody and like it drags. It's emotional. It takes work.
yeah.
And I wanted something that I could kind of just kind of settle into, and I didn't have to do too much work, but it was going to be fun, and the Grand Paloma Resort did just that. I
Yeah.
read it in a day.
It
That's
was
fun.
great.
That's
It was great.
great.
Didn't you have a bonus question, Jess?
Yeah. I wanted to know like what were the fun parts of the story that you enjoyed writing, or where you had or what were the parts that you were hesitant maybe to write about?
Yeah, I think there's definitely overlap with that question because I would say for me, like writing Pablo, who is
Mm.
fisherman slash bartender slash, doing a little inappropriate sexual work with the guests. I was definitely, so one thing that I was thinking about honestly was we were talking earlier about ambition and how like the way ambition shows up with Laura is really hard to take because I think generally as a society, but even those of us who would consider ourselves to be like progressive thinkers or feminists or womanists, we still can find a lot of fault with a woman who is ambitious and whose like main goal is to like break a ceiling or, you know, advance in her career, or who we see as like placing the job above other things that we would consider to be a woman's job. Like labor outside of work is nurturing, protecting, taking care of family and community. And so I expected that a lot of people would have a hard time with Laura. And I also wanted to create kind of a mirror character that was male and that was, you know, making just as many awful decisions to see, like, how would people like react to that. And so, you know, when the book opens, we know that Pablo is one of the workers. He, you know, works underneath Laura. So Laura is his boss. He's broken up, right? He's in a breakup and he's quite heartbroken because his girlfriend found out that he has been messing around with these guests. And the main reason in his mind that he justifies like doing these inappropriate things at work, which are, by the way, are not allowed. I mean, the Grand Paloma Resort is not the kind of place where they're gonna like condone this kind of like behavior. So he's, you know, he's risking his job, but he also believes this is the way that I'm gonna make it. This is the way I'm gonna get my big promotion. This is the way I'm gonna be able to facilitate for this woman that he wants to marry and have a family with a better life for all of them. And you know, I mean, I knew that he was having sex. I you know, I knew early on that Pablo was quite good at sex and that he was someone who enjoys, you know, doing what needs to be done. And, you know, part of what I wanted to show with like power imbalance, for me, it was very important to address that issue from like a male perspective. And so I was very hesitant to talk about kind of the abuses that can happen even in consensual sexual relationships, because I think it would be more, in a way, it would be more impactful for a reader. Because I think a lot of us have grown numb. You know, when I think about what's happening with even the Epstein files, like we think about how, like these days we have heard people that in a million years I never would have thought were mixed up in that horrible criminal enterprise. And yet we still see like careers some careers are being lost, but right. By the scale that I think things should be happening aren't happening. And I honestly feel like a lot of that is misogynistic, right? It's because people have grown so numb to the idea that like women and children, especially girls, are like abused, you know? And so I thought, you know, using a man maybe would be a way to like talk about the sex trade in the Caribbean, the sex trade when it comes to tourism, and have it be just like have it land differently. Yeah.
I think I need to go to therapy because I was not shocked by Pablo, and I was like, well, he's a man, and what good things do men do? Nothing. We hate them. Scum of the earth. Terrible humans every time. I was not at all shocked. Like I was like, well, he's a man, girl. What do you expect? Yeah. I wasn't I wasn't at all shocked. But to your point, I do think that we are very desensitized. I do think I blame true crime podcasts, right? Like I am the number one fan of them, right? Because I always want to know like, well, what led up to a person doing this? Like, how do we get here? But some of these podcasts go into very deep detail to a point where it's just like, oh, well, this is just something that I do. And you learn to adjust to the things that you're intaking, and well, I don't know these people or whatever. So we are very desensitized, and you're absolutely right. It did open up this conversation of like, oh, I don't think that I realized, as a person that is Black American, right? Like I have a bunch of friends that are from the Caribbean, but a lot of the things like I just don't know, right? Like not me being ignorant on purpose. You just don't know until you know. It was things that I never thought about. But again, Papa is a man. I don't put anything past a man. If you told me a man did something to you right now, yes, he did. I know he did. He's a man. I saw a video of a man last night that was saying that he's no longer apologizing to people because apologizing doesn't mean anything. And I was like, this feels like gaslighting on a phone that I pay for.
Yeah.
What do you even mean? It doesn't make sense.
Mm.
But he's a boy. It's boy logic, and boy logic makes no sense. So
You're
how
right, but
long was it?
I also feel like part of this, Shelby, is like the end of civility. Like I think what has happened, honestly, and we knew this from 2016, right? Like we saw it leading up to that presidential campaign,
Yes.
right? Like we saw the end of civility, and there's something that I think kind of like we crossed this really dangerous threshold just globally with the pandemic. Like when I think we saw firsthand that people were willing to let other people die because they
Yeah.
felt like certain parts of our
Yeah.
community, certain parts of our country are expendable. And so if like most of the people that are being impacted are the elderly and are like immigrants or brown people and black people, we're okay with that. I mean, I really do think these things add up in my mind.
You're
And
absolutely correct.
Yeah, I
yeah,
agree.
I think
it's
They do.
the pandemic has impacted us more than I think we will ever know. Like there are going to be years and years of healing that has to be done to
Or want to
really
accept.
recoup, right, or like to recoup the experiences that we had, because even just
Yeah.
on a like personal level, right? Like what, the pandemic started in 2020.
mm-hmm.
My dad was fighting cancer and like a liver disease, and the amount of people in our family that were just like, we don't care about wearing masks, right? Or like me and my mom are both immunocompromised. My very best friend, who has no reason to like switch her life for us other than just our friendship, was very strict about, oh, I'm not going around anybody that could possibly be sick or doesn't want to wear a mask, because my best friend and her mom are immunocompromised, and if that means that I can't see them, then I'm not going to hang out with you. Like it showed you who everybody was. So you're
Yes.
absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not surprised at all to hear that there's a man going around talking about I'm never apologizing again. Because I
I
think it's just like tracks. Like I think we are on this
Hmm.
trajectory now where it's like full-fledged cruelty. You know what I mean? It's
Yes.
just
Yes.
and it's alarming and it makes me so sad, you know? Because I think I was doing a talk a couple weeks ago in New Rochelle, and people were talking about the current state of immigration and like the horrors that we're seeing, right? And like the rising outrage. And I was saying, you know, for me, as someone who, you know, came from another country, I'm a US citizen now. I still consider myself an immigrant. Even hearing certain people in my family talking to me about how they don't consider themselves immigrants. And they're, you know, we're talking about people, my aunts, my uncles who don't speak English fluently, and some of their children are saying they were pro Trump, right? And they were pro like more like, you know, shutting down the immigration problem. And I'm like, make it make sense. Like we are immigrants. Like we got here from another country. You would not exist.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so it's just
it's
it's
like
just
I
It's
was
fascinating.
dating
so.
someone. I was dating someone, he's Haitian, and he told me that he doesn't vote. And I was like, "Oh, we can no longer date." I was like, "Literally your ancestors are somewhere very disgusted at you." I'm like, "Your people literally are about fighting for what is right, and
Mhm.
you don't exercise your right to vote? Are you dumb?"
Hmm. It's
So,
such
it's
a. It's such a. Like in the Caribbean. Like remember, I was telling you like last week, or was it the week before? Whichever week it was, we were talking about this. I feel like when it comes to, especially, I'm from South Florida, it's Cleyvis, just to give you a idea of where I grew up. So I grew up around a lot of Haitians, Dominicans, Jamaicans, everybody, Cubans, the whole
Mhm.
nine, right? Their thought process, you would think Cubans of all people would be anti-Trump because most of them have come over here illegally or legally, whatever the case may be, and if you go to Miami, if you go to anywhere, honestly, in South Florida, everything is either Spanish Creole or English, of course, but
Yeah.
like it's mostly Spanish or Creole.
Mm.
And because of such rigid ways of thinking when it comes to conservatism, I can't say that
Mhm.
all the way fluidly,
You did it.
religion and all the things, they're going to vote for Trump because it just makes sense just from that standpoint of Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
what they believe. It's just the nature and culture sometimes of being Caribbean, unfortunately. It just really is. I know some people in my family that they could get deported tomorrow, right? But they over there voting for Trump like it's nothing, right? It's
That
just so
stresses me out
weird.
so bad.
It
It stresses
does.
me out so bad. It makes me feel like I'm the one that's not smart. Like it
Yes.
always makes me step back and say, is it what am I missing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did I
Same.
forget something here? Did I
Same.
not go to a meeting or something? Like what? I don't understand. And
It's
I
I,
think
so
I
the
weird.
like I'm
it's one of
empathetic.
those. It is. I mean, Shelby, I feel like I've been so puzzled by this idea of complicity, and so much of what I did in the Grand Paloma Resort, especially with Laura, and I think about Dulce, who is kind of caught up in like a terrible situation as a mother, but who we also know has been exploiting members of her own community. But she seems in her own mind to see it as empowerment, right? And
Yes.
so I really was, for me, like a part of this book, the job of this book is to bring to task those members of our community that are complicit with the systems that
Yeah.
are seeking to destroy them. I'm like, we need to be really clear that this isn't something new. This isn't something that just happened. We see it time and time again because anytime that there's a reckoning, and that we have an opportunity to break through. I mean, imagine if Harris had won. Imagine if right now we had a woman president. Like the world would be very different. But you saw right
Very.
away, like people, even from, I remember the day of the day of the presidential election. They were interviewing people in the Midwest, and they were interviewing a Muslim couple. And if you remember, during that time, a lot of people thought, oh, what's going to screw up um, Harris is that she wasn't willing to come out and say that she's anti-Israel, anti the genocide.
Yeah.
And these people were people that were part of that community that, I think they understood what was what. And at one point they asked them. And so all I'm saying is that this is a community that I think, regardless of what was happening, it was clear to any of us that have like a thinking brain that really Harris was going to be the best choice for world peace, for world stability, who wasn't trying to put immigrants in detention camps, right? And it's kind of wild to me that like this very like Muslim couple were voting for Trump. And like I'm telling you, it was at that moment, Shelby, where I was like, she's gonna lose. Like until
Yeah.
then, I was hopeful
Yeah.
because I was like, there's
Yeah.
enough of us. There's enough
There
of us
was
that are gonna
a
push this.
It's
there
not
was
enough. Yeah.
a Muslim girl when so Cleyvis, I don't know if you know, 2 years ago, almost 2 years, the 19th is
Yeah.
next week. It'll be exactly 2 years since I had open heart surgery.
Oh my
And I
goodness,
had
I
to
didn't know that.
do I had to do cardiac rehab after for like 3-4
Mm.
months. And there was a girl around my age, Muslim girl, that was one of the nurses. So like I saw them 3-4 times a week.
Mm.
And they were really big Taylor Swift fans. And I'm like,
Mm.
how can you be a Taylor Swift fan when she believes in everything that goes against who you and your family are? Right? Like if you want to excuse that for a song, maybe, but at the root of everything. So she tried to spin the whole Kamala thing. And I'm like, I think the part that you're not understanding is you pass for white. People look at you and they think that you are white. So
Mhm.
whatever happens, there's a chance that you're safe.
Mm.
And she was so like awestruck, like she didn't have anything to say. I'm like, I am a black woman through and through. From my skin
Mm.
color to these hips to the size of the nose on my face, I'm a black woman through and through. I don't stand a chance, right? People that look like me
Mhm.
don't stand a chance. I'm like, but you can blend. You can blend in with Taylor Swift.
Mm.
You
Yeah.
can be one of the girls. So it don't really matter to you for real. I'm
Mm.
like, you're so strung up. Like, how are we as a country going to be more concerned about what's happening in somebody else's house when we can't even fix ours? So
Yeah.
I don't know.
they were willing to destroy our house all for the sake, like it doesn't make sense. it doesn't make any sense. And
Well, it
I want to
makes
blame
sense
it
because
on like illiteracy. Like, is it because the people aren't, is it because the babies can't read? Is that what it
I
is?
don't know. I mean, I don't know because I
No.
know a lot of really smart people who have gone to college, who have big educations, and who are still like part of this movement. And
Right.
so it's very perplexing. But all I want to say is that sometimes we as a society will be very quick to say, oh, this part, right? Like the apathy that we're talking about, that just is like there are some people who it doesn't even make any sense, right? Like some people who just are apathetic, or Shelby, you stopped dating the man because he wouldn't vote. He like wasn't exercising his vote. And like look at how quickly Trump decided to, you know, take those protections away from Haitian people. I mean, hundreds of thousands of people were made illegal overnight. And so, you know, I just think that it's something that is baffling, but it's part of our reality. And I hope that like one of the things that the book does is that it helps us to like have these conversations, you know. And for me, like the answer isn't like shut it down, never talk to that person again. For me, like I do believe in something softer, where like we ease the road toward repair by like welcoming these people that like are just misguided, misunderstanding. They think they're
Oh,
gonna benefit from siding with hate, and we all
yeah.
know that you're going to be a target too. Even when you
Right.
think that you're
I
safe,
tried that,
nobody's safe.
Cleyvis. I asked him, I said, one, you're a teacher. So I'm like, even if you don't care about voting for yourself, what about your students? Like, I know that you care about those babies just from all, like, just listening to you speak. And
Mm.
I wanted to know, like, is this something that you're willing to adjust? Right? Is this something that we can work on? Possibly. And he said no. And I was like, baby, I come from real life activists. Like, my family don't do this for play. I can't bring you home.
Mm-mm.
I'm not concerned
Mhm.
about what they're gonna say to him. They're gonna look at me funny. I got to live here. I'm not, yeah, I can't bring you home. I can't. Like, I just can't. I'm not gonna, no. I'm like, that's gonna
Yeah.
be an embarrassment for you because my family is going to literally laugh in your face. So I did try. I gave him an opportunity. I cried about it. I did. But once he was just like, no, I'm not gonna change my mind. Like, I'm just not gonna do this thing. And I was like, oh well, you
Yeah.
also ain't gonna do me.
Nope.
I mean,
Well,
that's
baby.
so real. It is. It's just so like even thinking about some friends that I had to like, well, acquaintances at the time, but people I knew. And I'm like, oh, I would see when I go back home. My best friend would be like, yeah, such and such is voting for Trump. I was like, but again, their background and how conservative certain
Mm-hmm.
areas are, especially when it comes to Caribbean people.
Yes.
We are very conservative. And when it comes to what he's spewing, he knows what to spew out and how to
Yes.
say the things and spin it. And it's
Yes.
just like when you see that, it's people that at the end of the day, all they care about is themselves.
Mm-hmm.
That they're only voting for themselves. No one around them. They're not even thinking about their family, their spouse, their children. They're just thinking about themselves and like, well, this is what I believe and this is what I'm going. Just the one line, just the one thing that he believes versus all the hundreds of things off of that list that they put out. And that's what they go for. And it
Mm.
sucks. And now everything's happening. Everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, Kamala, come back." But it's like
Mm.
I
it's
wish
done.
somebody would ask me to come to a job that they fired me from and ask me to help without pay. You'd be able to hear me cussing around the world.
Yeah.
What's that saying? Like the slap heard around the world. There would be echo. Y'all
Very
would be like,
loud.
why do I hear Shelby's voice? Do y'all hear
That's what I'm saying.
Shelby saying cuss words real loud? What happened?
It's
What?
crazy. She's supposed to announce something. Um, I'm not sure if she did. It was supposed to be yesterday, but
Yes, it
we'll
was
see.
the headquarters. The
Yeah,
Kamala page is gonna be
headquarters.
like a headquarters thing where she'll be like talking to leaders and doing all this other stuff. And a part of me wanted to be like, now, sister, you didn't. You could have led up to it. You could have sent us an email. You know these people was gonna be hype. and so on and so forth. But I do like the direction that she's going in, because she's very much like, oh no, y'all said I wasn't equipped, girl. I'm going going to find me some coconut trees. I don't
That's
blame
why I
her.
said, yeah, I don't blame her. When person was arguing, because I read Kamala Harris's book recently, her memoir, not her memoir, but 107 Days.
107 days.
Yeah.
And I posted online, because this is when everybody was like, Kamala, come back, they're like taking us away, type of thing, online. And I was like, Kamala told y'all she did everything she could. These people did her dirty. I don't think she's coming back, type of thing. And somebody was like, she needs to come back. I want her to come back so she can prove everybody wrong. And I'm like, I don't. I want Black women to just rest.
Yeah.
She did what she was supposed to do.
Yes.
She literally tried. She did everything in those 107 days, exceeded expectations, got all the money within 24 hours.
Yes.
And you still didn't use your right to vote. You voted for yourself, and that was it.
And
It
you know
is
how
what it
many
is. Let her rest.
women are struggling with autoimmune diseases because they expect us to keep going through all kinds of circumstances? No, let sister rest. I really want her to come up with a YouTube channel that's a cooking show. Like, I could see it in my head.
I'd watch that. I'd turn in for that.
Yeah, like her just cooking and being her, her funny self. Like, I totally I sign up for that. I want her to be able to rest and to do what she actually wants to do.
Yeah.
This was absolutely phenomenal, Cleyvis. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Reading with you too. And thank you, first of all, Shelby and Jess, reading the book I recommended that I said was a starting point. The minute you said that, my heart just like jumped out of my chest. Yay. Like, it just makes me so happy to bring readers to Edwidge Dantica, because she's just absolutely incredible. All your questions, the way that you engage with my work, it means so much to me. So I just want to say thank you for taking the care. I know Laura was trifling, Shelby. I'm glad that you stuck with it.
She was. How can people find you on the internet, Cleyvis?
Yeah, so the best way to find me is on Instagram. That's where I'm the most active there, and it's just my name, at Cleyvis Natera. My website, I try to keep it up to date, and I'm going to be launching the paperback in July. And so I would love to see folks. I'm going to be making a few stops around the country to launch the paperback of the Grand Paloma Resort. We have a beautiful new cover. Jess, I know you were talking about covers. So we have a really beautiful cover, which I hope to reveal, once we have the tour all lined up. So it would be wonderful for folks to keep an eye out for the book tour, for the paperback. I would love to see all your listeners out there.
Yes, awesome. We will put all your information in the description box. If you guys want to reach us, you can find us at the League of Readers on Instagram, Threads. That's it, right? We don't have no other social media. YouTube. Thank you. I knew I was missing something. And we will see y'all next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.